Okay, everybody, welcome. My phone says 2:30, so I want to be sure we start on time. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. Hope you've been having a good day at the conference. I know I have. I've been getting a lot of information and it's kind of fast and furious. Um, we're hoping to bring you a lot of information during our time together. Let me go on. Let's look at what we're planning to cover today. First, let me say hello. My name's Elizabeth Schroeder. I'm the Director of Research with the DR Access Project. And then my partner today is Justin. Justin, you want to say hi?
Hi there, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
So we're bringing you updates around the DRDP, as well as sharing some additional resources with you today. We do only have 50 minutes, just like all of the other sessions. So we'll try to cover a lot of material, but there may be questions and maybe things you want clarification around. So we encourage you to go ahead and post in the chat or the Q&A. The Q&A is really a better place to post your questions because everybody always benefits from seeing the other questions that folks have and seeing the answers and responses. So if you would generally post your questions to Q&A, that'll be great. And then Justin and I will be checking those throughout and responding to them. If there are larger issues, we will also talk about them as the presentation goes along. Okay, today what we really plan on covering is the supplemental guidance that came out around the DRDP. We'll walk through the highlights from that document. We will cover briefly DR Access reports and specifically DR Access reports and the link to SACE, because we're all SACE users here. So we want to cover that. Justin will share any highlights from the data collection process, any changes, any updates, and our upcoming webinars during that section. And then I will, at the end, if time permits, share a few highlights about how the DRDP is used for federal reporting and how you can be accessing your results for Indicator 7. Okay, great. So just a couple of logistical items. We have posted several handouts, I think 5, that are all posted on the CodeStack website. So I'm sure everyone has mastered this, but you can access those by on my schedule, go to the paperclip, click on that, and you'll see all the handouts. We have the PowerPoints for today's slides. So if there's links and that sort of information, you'll want to have that PowerPoint open. And then I think the document that we're going to start with first that you really might want to have on hand is the interim guidance. So you may want to download that now and have that ready. I already said the thing about putting your questions in Q&A. So let's get started. Okay. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, everyone's experiencing a change in service delivery, and we too had to respond to that change in the way services are delivered because it will have an impact on the way assessment can be completed. So as a result of that, we got together as a team and we went through the instrument and took a look at what measures were easier to complete virtually than others. And we created subsets of required measures for this fall. I will show you on a couple of screens from now those exact set of measures and how to print out all the forms for that. But in a nutshell, all of that is outlined in this supplemental guidance. In addition to the smaller set of required measures, we've also compiled a list of additional resources that will help you use the DRDP during this time. There are many different sections in there, sections around working with families, sections around how to modify the examples in the instrument to make them more usable in a virtual setting. So I really want to point you to this resource. With that said, it's not always great to just read a paper document. So our training team has put together a wonderful tutorial that I encourage you all to print out the supplemental guidance and then head over to our website The address is there on this slide, and you can complete the tutorial, walk through the tutorial, and it will really help you navigate that material and know what is the most important pieces to get out of that guidance. If you're working at the administrator level, I also encourage you to share this particular resource with all of your assessors that are using the DRDP. It is not required, and I do have a slide later about required training. It is not required. It is not housed in our learning center. It's on our website, but anybody can use it, and we're really strongly encouraging that the quickest way to best understand how to use the interim DRDP this fall is to complete this tutorial and walk through that. Okay, great. So what are some of the key requirements that we want you to be sure you're aware of? Changes, new things for this fall. So as I've already said, as I led off, beginning this fall, the requirement is for the use of the interim DRDP set of measures. I'm going to show you that set on the next couple slides, but that interim set of measures is what's required now and moving forward until further notice. When services do return to sort of typical, which I wish we had a fortune teller who would tell us when that's going to happen, but whenever we do return to typical services, then we will return to the full set of measures. So we're not permanently going to this smaller set of measures. It's just for now, and while virtual service delivery is happening in the majority across the state. Okay. We also changed our enrollment threshold dates for both fall and spring. So for those of you that have been doing this for years, our old threshold date was October 1st, right? So children who were enrolled prior to October 1st were required to have a DRDP. That date has been rolled back another month to November 1st. Now this change is going to be permanent. This isn't just because of COVID. This is because we want to be more inclusive and align better with general education enrollment dates and make sure we're getting as many children assessed with the DRDP as possible during the fall. Okay, so November 1st and November 1st from here on out. The spring date is also moving back another month. So it was March 1st in the spring, children enrolled prior to March 1st. Now for spring, it's children enrolled prior to April 1st. Okay, so those dates are permanently changed. Your local due date is still locally determined. So if you're wondering, do I need to get my data in before that Thanksgiving deadline or that December 15th deadline that I always have every year, you need to check with your local administrator. If you're the local administrator, make sure you communicate that to your assessors, okay? If there has been a change, definitely make sure you communicate that. But that's how we respond to that request when we get it as well. When is my data due in my SELPA? We always push everybody back to their local SELPA director, okay? That we have not made any blanket suggestion of change on. The SELPA due dates, and Justin will also talk about this, have not changed. So the SELPA data submission dates have not changed, and we'll have a slide with those on them in a few moments. Okay. So this table is in your supplemental guidance. So I know it's hard to read on this slide, so don't be killing your eyes trying to read this, but in a nutshell, the preschool measures have gone from 43 required measures down to 23 for this fall. The measures on the left-hand side of this table are the measures that are required. The measures on the right hand are the measures that are not required, okay? The infant toddler instrument has 9 fewer measures. Again, the table has the same pieces of information. On the left-hand side, you have the measures that are required, and on the right-hand side, the measures that are not. We have gotten the question, how will I know? Well, we'll show you some paper resources you can use, but I also want to note that SACE has programmed all of these changes in as well. So they will, when you're doing your DRDP data entry screen, you will not be able to rate the measures that are not required. So you don't have to memorize these. If you generally use the data entry screen as your guide, you will not be allowed to rate those measures. If you like to have a paper version of the rating record form in front of you, which I know a lot of folks do, we have put out new printable PDFs of the rating record. You can see the link there is on the screen to go to our website and download both of those versions, either preschool or infant toddler. You can see the measures that are not required are grayed out. And I can't stress this enough. The reason we grade them out is because we want everybody to understand that this is temporary. We will eventually be returning to rating all of the measures as we always have done. But for right now, you just don't need to rate those grayed out measures. Okay? So do print those paper rating records out if you'd like to have them.
Elizabeth, we had a question that might be applicable to the whole group, and it's regarding the service date or the enrollment date, the October 1st change to November 1st. The question is, just to clarify, the services must start on or before, or only before November and April 1st? Like, could they start services, like, for example, on November 1st, I think is what they're getting at here.
Yeah, so typically it's before November 1st. What we use on the back end, and Justin knows this far better than I, to determine who we're expecting DRDPs for from you, we pull kids that were enrolled prior to November 1st, not on November 1st, but prior to November 1st. So the same would be true of services. No one is going to ding you, though, for completing and submitting a DRDP for a child who's enrolled or begins services on November 1st or even shortly thereafter. You can always complete those DRDPs and turn them in. It just will not show up as required for your LEA. Okay, good question. I also want to note that the information page has changed. These, unlike the interim changes, are permanent changes. So periodically we review the information page and we recognized some redundancies around some of the fields on the DRDP information page, specifically around ethnicity and language information. That's information you are already providing to CalPADS through the student record. And so we decided to remove some of those fields from our information page. But we added a couple of new fields so that we could get a better sense of how services are being provided in the field. And so we added a field about setting. We added some additional details around collaboration. So you will see those new fields on the information page. You can, of course, excuse me, print a new paper version of the information page, but I will also note that SACE has made all of these programming updates as well. So when you go in to enter your DRDPs, these fields will automatically be presented to you, the new ones included. Okay, great. One last comment I want to make about the interim changes for the fall, because we have gotten some questions or concerns. For those of you that are, and we'll revisit this topic at the end, aware that the DRDP is used for federal reporting, we have to ensure that even with the interim set of measures, we can continue to do that. And so I want to reassure you that we will be able to generate the scores that we need to do indicator 7 reporting for federal reporting. But I also want to assure you that the instrument still has a great deal of value for assessors and families. So I'll talk a little bit more about that under reports, but we still want the instrument to be used for planning, for IEP goal writing, and sharing with families and looking at progress over time. None of that has changed as a result of this shortened set of measures. We just really had to focus in on the measures that we believed you could reasonably observe virtually virtually with families during this time. Okay. I don't know if anybody has been asking any required training questions. We keep getting a lot of questions, so I just wanted to have one quick slide to address training. We have not released any new required training since the fall of 2018. So if you have been assessing folks with the DRDP since then, I am pretty sure you've completed the DRDP training that has been required up to this point. If you're not sure or think maybe you didn't do it, you need to go to draccesslearn.org, log into your account if you had one. If you don't have one, then you definitely didn't complete the training and you need to log in and complete the training. For any new assessors, so your colleagues or your staff who are new to the DRDP, they must create an account and complete training at draccesslearn.org. We do have courses ready to go, but again, due to the COVID pandemic, we aren't going to release those. So there's no required training right now. What there is the tutorial on the supplemental guidance that's available on our website. So again, encouraging you all to complete that and have your staff complete that. I also want to note that training should be completed prior to assessing using the DRDP. It's not the end of the world if it's not, but that is the ultimate goal, that the training, help with fidelity of implementation. So please do try to make sure all of your assessors and your colleagues have completed their required training. Okay, great. I'm now going to move us into this. Let me pause really quick before I move into reports. Justin, has anything else come up? No. Okay. All right, great.
Oh, no, just a minute. Something
Okay.
just came in.
Okay, great.
All right. I have a student who enrolled in October, but has yet to log on to any Zoom sessions. What do we put on those DRDPs? So it sounds like their assessor really hasn't had access yet to the student.
So that's a great question, and one that we do address in the supplemental guidance on the section around unable to rate. Especially right now, we know that service providers are experiencing a high level of missing. They're just not seeing their students. The students aren't showing up to the virtual sessions. If you truly, from the time of the assessment window starts, so if the child's enrolled in October, and let's say your due date locally is December 15th to complete the DRDP assessment, if during, let's say, that 8-week window, you truly do not see the child in that time, ever, not once, that would be a case where you would just mark unable to rate on every one of the measures. We are hoping that that's a very rare case because we, in essence, that assessment is not usable. And so please do use that sparingly, but that would be a case where you could use that. Okay, good question. Let's move into talking about using the reports. I don't know. I don't think anybody has the ability to raise their hand in here, right? I don't think so. So it's okay. I'm just a rhetorical question. How many of you have DR Access Reports accounts? How many of you know what DR Access Reports is? DR Access, and let me go back to the main screen there. DR Access Reports is our online report system that's free and available for use for assessors as well as administrators to generate individual child and group reports. Okay. If you do not have an account, you can simply go to draccessreports.org and create an account. So this is an image of the create an account screen. It's a very straightforward process. Enter the required information indicated by the asterisks and click submit. Now, one of the more frequent support calls we get is that folks never receive a confirmation email from us. So in order to finalize your create an account process, you do need to click on a link in a confirmation email. If you don't receive that email within a couple of minutes of creating your account, give us a call. and we will help finalize that process for you. Look in your spam folder first, or your junk mail folder, whatever it's called on your email server, and make sure that email's not in there. But do give us a call. You should get it, like I said, in a couple of minutes. So do not sit around waiting for that. I encourage everyone who doesn't have an account right now to go and do that. Maybe not while I'm talking, but maybe shortly after the session, you can create an account in just a couple of minutes. Once you are logged into the system, the first thing you want to ask yourself is, okay, how do I get data here to produce reports? Well, for you all as SACE users, it's very straightforward. So let's talk about it. When you enter a DRDP into SACE, there is a field now between the name of the person completing an assessment and the role of the person completing the assessment that asks for your DR Access Reports account email. So since you just created an account, or since you already know what your username is, it is your email address that you use to create your account with. You're going to type that information in here. Okay, on every single DRDP. Couple things I want to note for you all as SACE users. Make sure you do it exactly right, because if you don't, that data is going to get lost in the space of not knowing where to go because a period's in the wrong place, or you accidentally didn't put an @ sign. And unfortunately in SACE, once a DRDP record is affirmed and attested to, you cannot go back and open it up and make changes. And so then you've kind of lost that automated link. So please, especially as you're just getting started with this, if it's new to you, make sure you are entering that email address accurately into that field. Once you do that, overnight, that data will automatically transfer to DR Access Reports. Now, full disclosure, we had to make a lot of changes to this API over the last month to that automated transfer because of all of the changes to the interim, for the interim measures, as well as the information page. And we are still having a couple of errors that we are at the brink of getting fixed. So if you have any delay in your records coming over, never fear. We're sorting the issue out as quickly as possible. You can certainly contact us or SACE support, and we'll let you know. We'll follow back up with you as soon as the error is fixed. But hopefully it will be very soon, because we're literally working on it as we speak. Okay. So that's the automated transfer. Didn't used to be this way. If you came to our session last year at the live CodeStack conference, that was not the case. But over the winter last year, we were able to get this automated transfer up and running, and it's been fantastic. So I want to encourage all of you to make sure you're doing it. That just makes report production go that much quicker. Okay? So right now, let me just back up one quick sec. Back at the home screen, then after your data is there, you can always check by looking at manage rating records and see what ratings records you have there. But then you'll want to produce reports. So you'll click on that reports button. There are 2 reports that are available right now: the PDF of the rating record and the detailed child report. And when I say right now, it's for the fall, for this interim set of rating measures. Prior to this, and hopefully, long into the future, we have several other reports: the child report, the peer reference report, and the group report. But those are all domain level reports. And because of the fact that we are doing a shorter set of measures right now, we cannot produce those domain scores on those reports at this time. So the 2 resources we want to zero you in on are the PDF of the rating record and the detailed child report. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at them. The PDF of the rating record is exactly what it sounds like. It simply produces for you a printout of the completed rating record based on the scores that you have transferred over. This can be handy to print to keep in a child's file, or even share with parents if you'd like, or even share with your colleagues, especially if the child is transferring or transitioning to another program. Okay. The second resource is the detailed child report. I'm not going to show you every page of it because we don't have that much time today, but I did want to show you an example. The detailed child report includes the measure ratings across every domain of the instrument, okay? So generally speaking, for preschool children, it's a 7-page report. So just keep that in mind as you produce it. And then what you get is an indication of this child's ratings for each individual measure. I'm going to point out a couple of key features, and then I do recommend, if you want more information, to take a look at the guidance document, which is in the handouts. It's called DRDP 2015 Detailed Child Report Guidance, and that's one of the handouts. It has much more information than we're going to be able to go through today, but I just wanted to point out a couple of things. The detailed child report includes children's information up in the top right corner, assessor information, that sort of thing. Then there's a rainbow band across the top there. That is a legend that links the developmental levels from the instrument to the rainbow bar that comes a little bit later, okay? So that one has even size boxes. Now, as you start to move through the report, you get to this rainbow band that looks a little bit different. It's not evenly sized boxes. We call that rainbow band a domain scale. And typically, when you're completing every measure in a domain, you would also be getting a little tick mark on that domain scale that would be called the domain rating. And it would give you a general idea overall how that child is performing in that domain. Right now, because we're only doing, for example, ATL or COG that we're looking at on the screen, we're only completing 4 measures. And so we are not generating that domain rating, but we are leaving the domain scale there for you. Let me say this. A domain scale is a graphical depiction of how development occurs. What we know is that development does not occur in equal steps. And so that's why the boxes are not equally spaced. They are literally a graphical depiction of the idea that development takes longer for some skills for a child to master than others. And I think as teachers, as assessors, we already know that. You already know that just from your experience. You might look at the instrument and see the next developmental level and say, I don't know that that's going to take the next 6 months to accomplish, but maybe we can move through that level in a couple of months. Anyhow, that's what the domain scale is. Right now, no domain rating is showing, but I do want to take the opportunity to explain what that information is. Then as you move down the rows, you see that child's individual measure ratings. Again, the legend at the top reminds you what those developmental levels are building earlier, building middle, exploring later. Those are just the 2-letter acronym for each one of those developmental levels. As you move down, you can see that there's a box filled with text. The text in the box is the language taken directly from the instrument for each one of those developmental levels. Okay, so the first, it's the third column really, gives you an idea of the level that that child has just mastered. It's their level of mastery. Then the text in the furthest right column is the text for the next level that they will be working on mastering. Okay, that can be a really helpful resource as you're interpreting this report and looking to write goals and plan from it. You have the text directly from the instrument. So, generally speaking, our guidance is to take a look through the detailed child report through every page of the detailed child report and ask yourself some questions. Does this look generally like an area where Angeline is doing well? Are there specific measures where we think Angeline is doing well? Are there specific measures where we think maybe we need to plan some additional supports for Angeline? Overall, we can see in COG that Angeline's around the building level, right? Especially in ATL Reg 1, 2, and 3. But then in COG 7, she's down and exploring later. Is that concerning? Maybe not. maybe not. Depending on the unique abilities we know and our relationship with Angeline, it's just something to note, and it's something to interpret as you reflect on Angeline's development and what you've been working on together over the last 6 months. I just wanted to show you another sample page. I have the PD health measure here where we have an example of a little bit more drastic difference between a measure where Angeline is in building middle and then in PD health 2 where maybe she's significantly lower than where she's at on the other measures. So I'm just taking a very quick snapshot of 2 domains and questions you might ask yourself as a way to interpret Angeline's developmental progress. So let me talk just a little bit about what we do suggest you do with this information. So our hope is that after you complete the assessment, then you come over to DR Access Reports and you produce a report. And you can use that information to write present levels of development or performance for your IFSP or your IEP, write or plan out your outcomes for your IEP goals. There's a lot now in the field. It's focused on short-term learning targets, setting proximal learning targets that are more attainable in a shorter amount of time. You can directly use the measures and the information you have on this report to write those smaller goals. Get out your instrument, look at the measure, look at the examples, look at the skills you're working on, and write smaller goals that are more attainable to work on with the family members at home. And then I also want to remind everybody that the DRDP is tied to our early learning foundations. And so make sure to be going back to those foundations for additional information and support for writing those goals and learning targets. I also don't want to, I want to make sure to stress sharing these reports with families are a wonderful way of showing not only where the child is at currently, but where they are over time. So you can produce this report this fall. And then in the spring, whether we're on the interim measures or back on the full instrument, it won't matter. You can produce the report again, and you can show them how their measure ratings are changing over time. Okay? Any questions about reports, Justin, that came up that I should address before we head into data?
Not right now. Thanks.
Great. Excellent. So right now, I'm going to hand it off to Justin to hit some of the highlights for fall data collection.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. Next slide, please. Great. So here's a snapshot of our DR Access data system. So this is our login page. And just a reminder, our contact information is on this page. So if you ever have problems with your password or you need an account set up or whatnot, you can go to this page and that 1-800 number down below, extension 5 actually comes to me, or you can send us an email at data@draccess.org and I'll also get the email there and we'll get back to you. All right, next slide, please. All right, so just a reminder for data submission, you go to draccessdata.org. The file format has been modified to include the changes that Elizabeth has already reviewed on the information page, as well as the interim DRDP. And so what will happen is you will, get your SACE download, and that should be in the format that you need to upload to our system. We're working with SACE to make sure that all works, but that's going to be our goal. That the format that you will download will be the same format that you upload to our system. We also have a template in our system you can download just to check. And so you can access that by logging into our system and going ahead and download that. The data submission deadlines remain the same. So for this upcoming assessment period, the cutoff will be February 1st, 2021. And so no change there. All right, next slide, please. All right, so if you do not have an account and you need one, if you're a SELPA director or you're a SELPA data manager, please let me know. A lot of times, folks leave SELPAs and they don't hand over the account to the new director or the new data manager. So I just want to make sure that we get you set up, logged in, and you know what's going on. I want to make sure that everyone's on our listserv or our announcement list. And so feel free just to reach out and I'll get you added and get you all sorted out and set up. This is not a system where you can set up the account on your own like the report system. This is actually a system where you need to request an account. We keep this really locked down to SELPA directors and their supporting data managers only. All right, next slide, please. So when you log in, this is the menu you see. Up top, you have buttons. It says Home, Upload, Review, Certified, Download Reports. But the main menu, it's the same options down here on the left. So it just says Upload, Review, Certify, Download, Reports, and Help. The first option is where you would start, Upload Data. So you would go get your DRDP data cleaned up in SACE, affirmed, and you can download it. And then you would go to this first option, and then this is where you would upload it. And I also want to encourage you to go ahead and upload data early, even if it's not completely complete. If you have some completed and affirmed SACE DRDPs you'd like to get over in our system, you're welcome to do that and upload them and start doing some checks just to make sure everything uploads and everything's smooth. And then when you do another upload, when you get more DRDPs, it will just overwrite everything in our system. So the important part here is just to always make sure the last file you upload contains all the information for your entire SELPA and all your districts. And so that will be the last file you upload. It contains everything and will overwrite anything that's out there. The next menu option is where you can actually review your data that you've uploaded and look at individual DRDPs if you'd like to do a spot check just to make sure that your data did import as it should have. The next option, the certified data, is only visible to SELPA directors in the SELPA director account. So data managers will not see this option. It is reserved just for the SELPA director. And that is the last step in this whole process where the SELPA director will log in, review the data, and certify it. And that's critical. You're not done until that certification is done. So the data managers can do everything else in the account, but that last final step is reserved for that SELPA director account. After you've certified, you can actually download your data using the download data menu, and you can download it. And you can also run various reports on this data as well as previous assessment periods. So I encourage you to go out there and take a look. And I'll get deeper into that in our webinars that we're going to have over the next couple of months. All right, next slide, please. And just a reminder, this is what the screen looks like for the SELPA director when they certify. They just need to confirm their information, check the box that they affirm the data is complete and accurate, and then they hit the certify button, and then your submission is done. That's the last step. All right, next slide, please. And once you certify, an email will be sent with a PDF attachment stating that you certified to the director. And as a data manager, when you log in, you actually can see that your data has been certified and you can't make changes to it. So it'll be pretty obvious when it is certified. Just want to let everyone know we're having 2 webinars this fall. So I encourage you to go out and register. We have the links here. Feel free to download the presentation from the agenda, and you can tap on the link from the presentation. So our first one is going to be held on December 3rd at 10 a.m. and our second one is January 12th at 1 p.m. And remember that deadline's February 1st. So we try to push these out closer to when data managers will likely be getting all their data together and into our system. All right, next
really
slide,
good-
please.
That's a really good point, Justin, you just made, and we had someone put something in the QA. Just want to reiterate that that February 1st deadline is for SELPA. So it's not for teachers. Teachers, assessors, you got to stick to whatever your deadline is that your local administrator is telling you. It is going to be much earlier than February 1st. And that is due to the fact that our data managers and SELPA directors need the time to do a lot of the stuff that Justin's just talking about right now, cleaning the file, getting it uploaded, and all of that. So that February deadline is really for SELPA directors and data managers. And for teachers, stick to your local timelines.
Right, well said, thanks.
Mhm.
And then next slide, please. And I'll hand this back to Elizabeth.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yes, and I think we were also able to answer any other data questions that came up in the Q&A, so that's great. Okay, so the last piece we wanted to highlight for all of you in our time together was just to make the connection, if you aren't aware already, that the DRDP is used for federal reporting. So every state is required every year to send a giant report to the Office of Special Education Programs around 14 different indicators, right? And indicator 7 happens to be the one related to preschool outcomes. And in the state of California, to meet that requirement, we use the DRDP 2015. So while the DRDP has usefulness is helpful for you as an assessor for planning, individual planning for children and looking at progress over time, it also has a high level goal to meet our federal reporting requirements. If this is an intriguing topic to you, we've posted a link there to our website that has a linking document that really goes into greater detail about how the DRDP links to federal reporting. So that resource is available to you. But I also just wanted to share a visual of how data flows from you, the assessor, through the state, through us to OSEP, and then eventually back to all of you. So assessors complete assessments twice a year. You all put that data into SACE. That data then gets pulled out by your SELPA data manager and uploaded to DR Access Data, the system that Justin was just talking about. Meanwhile, it also does automatically transfer over to DR Access Reports now. So it's all kind of interconnected, and you can go out and produce individual child reports that have utility for you in working with kids. But once all that data has come to us in DR Access Data, sometime in February, we'll get all your fall data. We're going to analyze that data. Actually, no, we're going to take that data. We're also then going to take your spring data. And at the end of the year, the California Department of Ed is going to tell us who the exiters are. And it's going to say these group of kids exited preschool special education services. We need a report on how those kiddos did. And so we take all of your DRDP data out of DR Access Data, and we analyze that, and we produce results for how kids did from the time they entered preschool special education services to the time they exited. And that's called our indicator 7 results. We send that to the state. They include it in the larger SPP report, and they send it off to OSEP. But then we also take that data and we break it down by SELPA and district. And we make that information available to all of you through another online system we have that's called Indicator 7 Reports for LEAs. This is a fantastic system that you do not need to have a username or password to use. You don't need to sign up for anything. All you need to do is click on SELPA level results, the button there at the top. Go find your SELPA. Once you find your SELPA, you can look at the results for your SELPA. Or if you want to go a little bit further, if you want to look at your district information, click on that SELPA name and open your district information. We do webinars around Indicator 7, so keep an eye out for that information. Once your reports user which all of you are going to be after today, you will get invited to all the webinars that we have ongoing, but you can of course always sign up for our listserv at draccess.org. I think the link just says sign up or I can't remember exactly what the link says on our website, but it says subscribe. It says subscribe. That's what it says. So just go to draccess.org and click subscribe if you want to make sure you're always getting updates about any trainings we're doing. But at a minimum, I want you to know that we're using your data and that it's available here to look at. So if anything you take away from this is go take a look at your data, take a look at your data for your district and just see what the results are looking like there. If you've never done that before, take a minute to do that. Okay. Our last slide is a whole host of resources. I know we've been through a lot. I know we've covered a lot of our systems and none of them, you know, we didn't take too deep of a dive on any of them, but here are the links to all the systems. So DR Access is our main website. DR Access Reports is our individual child report website and where you need to create an account prior to entering your data into SACE. DR Access data is our SELPA data collection system that Justin spoke about. So if you need information about that, you want to head to that site. I just spoke about the Indicator 7 system. There's the link to that. And then if you need to complete training, then DR Access Learn is the place that you're going. You can, of course, get to all these sites through DR Access, our main website. So that's why that's the first link there. Again, I encourage you to download the 5 handouts that were posted. I did happen to put the flyer in there about that automated transfer between SACE and our system. So especially if you're an administrator and you really want to send something out real quick to the folks you work with, like, hey, there's this automated transfer between DR Access Reports and SACE, that'd be an awesome flyer to put in an email because it has the instructions, what we just went over on one page. Super simple. So download that from the handouts. Justin mentioned it. I'll mention it. If you have questions about any of this, we have a fantastic support staff. If you have questions about reports, send it to reports@draccess.org. If you've got questions for Justin about data collection, it's data@draccess.org. We also have a general email that's info@draccess.org. Listen, there's lots of us here to answer questions. Just send them to us. We have a 1-800 number that has many different extensions, training, reports, data collection. You can also call that too. We are here to support you. Are there, we got 3 minutes. Are there any other burning questions? That was the content we wanted to share today. So if you have anything else you didn't hear, that you were hoping to hear about or any lingering questions, please post them now and we'll just answer them live. Justin, are you seeing anything?
Nothing new right now.
Okay. Otherwise, we are going to say thank you. It has been a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. We hope you take away lots of good information. Again, reach out to us if you have any questions, especially about the new requirements for this fall or any of the date changes, any of those pieces. We recognize it's a lot to manage with your already hectic lives. Have a great weekend. Oh, we got a question?
Yeah, we had one question.
Yep.
A participant just wants to know how to download the slides. I believe you can just do that from the CSC 2020 agenda website.
So, right. So where you created your schedule on the CodeStack conference, it's the csconf.org, where you have your My Schedule. Next to the title of the session's a little paper clip. It's really cute. And you click on the paper clip and all the handouts for that session are available. Okay.
And I just sent the link out on the chat so you can, the actual link. You'll just have to scroll down to our session to find it.
That's right.
And then one person tried registering and did not get the email. I believe that's reports account is my guess.
Okay,
And just make sure you check your spam folder when you register for things. Sometimes your spam check it, but you can just we can help you individually. So just send an email to reports@draccess.org.
yep, and Selena will help you with that. I see another question. Do you know what we're supposed to do about the DRDP for Part C preschoolers who've not been assessed and do not have IEPs and not in SACE? If the child has not officially transitioned, signed an IEP, and begun receiving services by November 1st, you do not need to complete a DRDP for that child. I believe on Tuesday, we sent out a new policy statement regarding that particular issue. So look out for that, and also look on draccess.org for a posting of that policy statement. Okay, I know they're going to shut us off right here. So I'm going to say thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Thanks for being with us, and take good care.
Thank you. Bye.